Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Now, we're unfortunately not able to have Michael Chiotinis with us last week, and I know from the communications I've been getting that people miss him very much. So he's back with us this week. It really is something to do not so much with the political situation or economic, but the Eastern Standard Time to Eastern Daylight Time change. Now, we have had Merkel, as far as I can see today. Merkel says every paragraph of the original extorted memorandum of the Troika has to be respected. And we've had Varoufakis saying, that is the Greek finance minister, that it's really the interest of these Frankfurt banks to keep the euro on the edge, a permanent crisis that makes people frightened to leave their money in any of the other banking centers, right? Be it Paris or Rome or Athens or whatever it is. No, they have to keep it in Frankfurt because of the fear of these other countries going into a crisis mode. So obviously, we know that Merkel, very much a creature of Josef Ackermann of Deutsche Bank. That's who put Merkel on the map. So we shouldn't forget that. But let's go to Athens and Michael Chiotinis. Michael, welcome.
Hello, Webster. And
so what's the picture?
That's exactly right what you said. The thing is that, as you said, the euro is not really a currency. There is no real unity in the euro because a euro, if you have a euro in a German bank, it has a bigger expected value when the blackmail of a Grexit or a euro breakup is over our heads. It has a bigger expected value than 1 euro in a French bank. And 1 euro in a French bank has a greatest expected value than 1 euro in a Spanish bank. And so on down the line, until you come to Greece, where people are taking their money out and sending it to Germany. So what they're trying to do, I told you before that they are trying to have all the benefits of having the euro in industry and exports, but none of the and also all of the advantages of not having a euro, of having a threat over our heads, and so they can take all capital flows into Germany and benefit the bankers who use the liquidity to, to maybe take themselves out of bankruptcy, because the big banks, as we know, as you have told in the past many times, are completely bankrupt. So, what they're trying to do now, as you said, Merkel says the previous memorandum has to be respected. That's crazy. They're trying to practically annul the agreement of the 20th of February within a cloud of blurriness and discredit the Greek government. They are also trying to maybe if they can't do that. The bottom line, they want to co-opt Syriza. Okay, bring them in line, force them to continue the old program, as if the elections were never held, and if that proves impossible, and maybe give them some points, tax evasion and these kind of things. We don't care. We Germans don't care about whether you crack down on tax evaders, but everything else must be respected. Well, no. An election was held. We are saying no to austerity because we are trying to say no to depression. So if this proves impossible, if a co-op of the Syriza government proves impossible, they will try to overthrow the Tsipras government. And I think they will try and do that after and only after their absolute best, doing their absolute best to humiliate it. It's an essential part of it. They are trying to humiliate the Greek government and then overthrow it. They don't want to have it the other way around, because Syriza right now is leading in the polls by 20 points, 20 percentage points. Much more than it took in the elections. So,
okay, so the model is to co-opt, in other words, force Syriza to become the enforcer of austerity, discredit Syriza, and then once they're discredited, junk them, throw them away, and so forth.
Yes, and it's not about Greece. They don't really care about Greece. I think they're trying to establish superiority. They establish control over policy in Europe in general. So they are trying to avoid having other countries turn to left governments and stop austerity. They want to be the absolute controllers. And when I say and that's the Germans. And when I say the Germans, I do not mean emphatically the German people, not the German people, not the unions and all this. That's the current German government controlled by German elites, and we all know Germany has been a victim of manipulation by its elites for decades now. And we had some very bad examples of this. Okay. Now, I don't know if you have any questions.
Yeah, let me start. I have heard something here about Tsipras going to Moscow earlier than thought. It was supposed to be May 8th for the victory parade, but there's been some talk of going earlier, maybe even April 8th. Does that ring a bell?
I haven't heard of this, but the thing is, we are trying to get a European solution. I don't know what role can Russia play in this, because the Greek government doesn't even care about money. As the Varoufakis said, jokingly, in a journalist, he answered with a Beatles lyrics, saying, "Money can buy you love," and that's absolutely right. We don't care about money. The Greek government doesn't care about money. They care about a policy, a shift in the policy implemented. And the Greek government doesn't even need money to pay the internal needs. It has a primary surplus, so we don't care about that. The Greek government cares about repaying bonds just as long as they are trying to use a default to bring panic and an overthrow. Otherwise, they don't care. They will default. The Greek government will declare a default or a debt moratorium. And
sure. And of course, that's not the same as leaving the euro, is it? You can be broke and still be a European. Michael, look, here's what I have. Reuters of Tuesday, March 17th says Tsipras will meet Putin in Moscow on April 8th, originally planned for May 9th. That is the victory in World War II. So I don't know whether that's been denied, but the idea then is that we have some Eurogarchs and Eurocrats who are hysterical about the idea of Russia somehow strengthening the Greek position. And what we've been campaigning for here, as much as I can, is somebody should extend a bridge loan, right? What Greece asked for, $10 or $15 billion. The U.S. Fed could do that in the twinkling of an eye, or the BRICS Bank, right? Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley reporting from Washington, D.C., and we're on the line with our preeminent observer in Athens, Greece, Michael Chiotinis. Michael, I was just saying that we had the Greek defense minister saying that he'd like to get some financing from Washington. That would make a lot of sense, right? It's a NATO country. Why not get some benefits for once? Another one would be, if that fails, then the BRICS Bank, right? What's the BRICS Bank? Does it exist? And if it does exist, it ought to come out and extend a significant loan to Greece. That would obviously benefit the position. But it does seem to be April 8th.
Yes. Yes, I don't have much about on this front, although the Tsipras government is trying to play the Russian card again and again, and I don't know what form could that take. A loan, maybe, but I'm not sure. Anyway,
Michael, the other thing about this is we knew even before the last elections, right? Last year, let's say, a year ago, that Tsipras had started contacts with Putin about if NATO tries to have a coup d'etat, will you provide certain kinds of aid? And it looked like Russia said yes, they would.
Yes.
Okay, now let me ask you another one that's made some important news. The humanitarian law, in other words, this question about these people whose lives are in danger, right? The 300,000 with no electricity and so forth. Can you give us an overview of that legislation? In other words, what exactly the Greek parliament has approved?
It's some aid to people under the poverty line and to people who don't have electricity because electricity is cut if you don't pay your bills. and it's somewhat modest. The numbers are not too big. It's electricity, food, and some housing for families. And it's this legislation puts the responsibility to ministers to adjust the numbers as are going to be needed. So that was a way of not having in the legislation numbers that could be misinterpreted as deficit spending. In other words, mm-hmm. And they say, okay, if we can take in money, we will give more to this. But if we don't, we'll just stay at this at the poverty line. And the interesting thing here is that Declan Costello of the European Commission, a representative of the old Troika, if you don't believe me, has sent a letter before the signing of the bill, before the passing of the bill, saying that if the parliament passes that bill, it will be a unilateral action against the 20th of February 20th agreement. And of course, the Speaker of the House said, the legislative initiative of the Greek Parliament cannot be blackmailed. I'm sorry, we will not tolerate that. And they passed it anyway, and nothing happened, of course. Mm-hmm. But you see that they're trying to put pressure again and again and again. And at the absolute point of they're trying to put pressure at the limit, so they can get whatever they can get, and maybe have Syriza confused or economically asphyxiated and surrender to Berlin. But it's not going to happen, and I don't know what they're going to do afterwards.
Their view of Europe seems to be that it's some kind of a penal colony, all right? That it's a form of hell on earth, and I don't know. It does raise some questions about the mental stability of Merkel and maybe even more of Schäuble, right? Who seem to be apoplectic, right? Maybe there's some early onset dementia going on with Schäuble, because he doesn't seem to get reality. Now, I couldn't conclude our talk today without asking you about this propaganda campaign mounted by the Anglo-Americans about Varoufakis making this coarse gesture with his hands and fingers against, I guess, the Berlin regime of Merkel and Schäuble. You have any comment on that one?
Yes, but the video is fake. Okay, it's the German satirical show came out and said we made it. We made the video. Okay, but the audio is original. He says stick the finger to Germany, but he talks about a period at the beginning of 2010 that Greece didn't owe Germany 1 cent. And he simply said, we should have defaulted, and stick the finger and say, you can solve the euro problem by your own. He didn't say that to the German people or the German taxpayer. They're trying to make it seem like he stick the finger to the German taxpayer. He didn't. He stick the finger to the German elite, but he didn't even. The video is fake, but the audio is original.
All right, but now look, when you say this stuff with finger, I mean there is this other closely related idiom, at least verbally, right? Is you stick your finger in somebody's eye. You can give somebody a finger in the eye, and that's not so provocative, I guess.
Or point the finger.
You can point the finger, exactly. So, so this is it's a big fraud. And again, I would recommend people in Greece. I mean, the thing to hammer on is that Merkel is a creature of the Deutsche Bank, of this guy Josef Ackermann. That's who made her, right? She's there because of Ackermann's support and that, of course, of a couple of other top bankers. The only other thing that I would be interested in finding out maybe for future weeks is, as I have said, right, as somebody who has organized in Europe myself, the one thing you have to understand, after the Treaty of Rome, country by country organizing doesn't work. And what we're seeing these days, I don't think it has anything to do with insufficiencies of Tsipras or Varoufakis, but that they were stuck with a one-nation political force. What they needed was an international party, obviously in the European Union and maybe outside of it too. Is there any awareness that somehow needs to be dealt with? I mean, I followed what they did in Italy last year for the European election, and they got a collection of very dubious characters who nevertheless had names, but they were inadequate. They just barely got over the hurdle, right? The minimum number of votes. Any discussion about going international? A kind of a Syriza international.
That's a very good point. There are some voices, but there are very few, and it's difficult to organize in a European level. But there are a few voices. I have written about it, and I think that you're absolutely right. We cannot be true Europeans. We cannot be Europe without a European unemployment fund or European trade unions. And
sure.
European minimum wage, anyway.
Exactly. Okay, the music is telling us we're finished. We'll see you again next week, Michael. All the best. Thank you.